All right, so the next topic we are speaking about is stakeholders. Remember, this is not a case study exam. It's an exam which is an OTQ exam. It's a multiple choice exam. So you will have to focus on the details. You will have to know the details of what a topic is. And while going through the recordings, we are highlighting the important areas, the important words, the important suggestions. So hope you're taking a note of it and focusing on that, because these are also very important, because this exam is going to ask you specifics. You'll have to tick either this or that. For that, you'll have to know the details that we are taking you through. So stakeholders are those persons in organizations that have an interest in the strategy of your organization. So anybody who is interested in the strategy of your organization, it could be anybody, becomes your stakeholder. Stakeholders normally include shareholders, customers, staff, and local community, because all of these four people or four beings are interested in the strategy of your organization. It is important that an organization understands the needs of different stakeholders, as they both have an interest in the organization and may wish to influence its objectives and strategy. So it's important organization understands what the needs and what the connection of the stakeholders is. So stakeholder interest definition is an interest or concern that a stakeholder has in an organization's actions, objectives, or policies. Same way there is stakeholder influence. How much can the stakeholder influence you? Now, the level of involvement that a stakeholder has in the function of an organization and the ability to bring about desired change. How much can the stakeholder influence your decision? Is he a high power stakeholder, a low power stakeholder? That's a definition that we must just keep in mind. Next, the degree of interest and influence of different stakeholder groups can vary. So obviously every stakeholder won't have the same power and the same interest, right? So well organized labor force, for example, let's say it's a well organized labor force, a labor union with a strong trade union will be able to exercise considerable influence. Let's say they go on a strike over the directors' plans. Let's say the directors have they've reduced the lunch time by 1 hour. Earlier, everybody got 2 hours. Now they reduced it to 1 hour. Do you think that the staff will be happy with it? Some might not be. And if they're part of a strong trade union, they can go on a strike and your organization is affected. So this is a stakeholder group that is having high interest and high influence. For example, there are residents of a small village might have great interest in the plans of a major supermarket chain to close the village store, but would have little power or influence. These residents will not have a lot of power. So every stakeholder has different influence, different power. That is what we must try to figure out when we read a question. So stakeholders can broadly be categorized into three groups. We'll know each group one by one. The first group is internal stakeholders. Now, obviously, when I say the word internal, means people who are inside my organization, who are working in my organization. So what forms part of the internal group? Obviously, the employees, they are part of your organization. What do they want? They want good working conditions. They want good job security. So that's the need or the expectation, sorry, of the employee. Then there is the managing directors, the managers, the senior managers. These are also internal. What do they want? They want good status, good pay, good bonus, good job security. Then there is connected stakeholders, the second group. Now, connected stakeholders have a contractual relationship with your organization. The objective of satisfying shareholders is taken as the primary objective which the management of the organization need to fulfill. Remember, shareholders are part of stakeholders. Stakeholders means anybody who is interested in your organization, and shareholders are one group which is interested in your organization. The main objective of any company, the primary objective, is making sure that they fulfill and satisfy the needs of the shareholders, because they are the people who invested money in your company, right? So what are the connected stakeholders? The first is shareholders, as we spoke about. They want good flow of income in the form of dividend. They want good capital growth. Next, there is customers. They are connected to your organization, right? They are buying from you. They want good services from you, good products from you. Then there are suppliers. They are also connected to your company. They want prompt payment. They want a good relationship. There are finance providers, people who have given you money. They are connected to your organization, obviously. The third category is external stakeholders outside of the organization. This group will have quite diverse objectives and have a varying ability to ensure that the organization meets their objectives. Outside the organization becomes the community. So this is the general public. Next, there is the environmental pressure groups. They are also outside of your organization, but they're interested as to what you're doing. Are you harming the environment? Are you not harming the environment? Then there is the government. Obviously, government is external, will always be a stakeholder. They will see if you're following the rules, paying the taxes, following the legislations, health and safety laws. There will also be trade unions. Sometimes trade unions, you think that, okay, if my employees are part of a trade union, employees are internal, so how can trade union be external? But trade unions, there can be a trade union for all the accounting employees in the whole country. That is also possible. So trade unions are company level as well, and can be state level, country level, or can be for a specific job as well. So if the department is to be closed, the union will want to be consulted, and there should be a scheme in place to help the employees find alternative employment. So trade unions are can be anything. They can be within your company, a small union. It can be citywide, statewide, or countrywide as well. That is why we put them in the external category over here. Now, all of these different stakeholders are interested in your company. So there is bound to be stakeholder conflict. There is bound to be some type of conflict over here. What is the normal conflict that occurs? First, employees versus the managers. The wages that they always want their wages to be increased. Managers want to reduce costs. So there is an inherent conflict right there. Second, there is customers versus shareholders. So shareholders want high dividends, high profits. Customers want very good quality products. If you're giving very good quality products, you're not able to cut on costs. If you don't cut on costs, you're not able to make a profit. How will you make the shareholders happy? So there is an inherent conflict again. Third, there is a general public versus the shareholders. Again, the general public wants you to take care of the environment, do something for the society. But all of this costs you money. Shareholders want a profit. If you're spending money here and there, how will you give shareholders their return? Fourth, managers versus shareholders. This is just examples that are being given to you, and any type of conflict can arise. But remember, when a conflict arises, you look at the interest and the influence of that stakeholder. If the interest of that stakeholder is high and the influence or the power of that stakeholder is high, you will give their needs priority. Keep this in mind. Next, we speak about resolving stakeholder conflict. Now, to help resolve stakeholder conflict, many firms will try to assess both, like I just mentioned, interest of the stakeholder and power of the stakeholder. For example, the government has high power, but the government does not have extra interest in your company. The government does not care what your company is doing on a day-to-day basis. So the government over here has high power but low interest. So I will treat their needs accordingly. On the other hand, a major customer has high interest. If he's your main customer, he obviously has high interest in your business, and he has high power as well. So he then becomes a key player. He then becomes a very important stakeholder for us to manage. So whenever there is any conflict between any stakeholder, you will look at the interest of that stakeholder in your business, and you will look at the power of that stakeholder power that that stakeholder holds in your business. So keep this in mind. This is an important categorization. Next, we talk about stakeholder conflicts for not-for-profit organizations. Now, if an organization is not established to make a profit, what kind of stakeholder conflicts can actually arise? So, unlike profit making firms, not for profit organizations may not have one dominant stakeholder group. For profit organizations have one dominant stakeholder group, which is your shareholders. For not for profits, you don't really have those profit seeking shareholders. Consequently, the NFP seeks to satisfy several different groups at once without having the touchstone of one primary objective, such as profit, to adhere to. It looks at very many different stakeholders. For example, a council may express its mission as caring for the community. Now, when you want to care for the community, there are so many broad objectives. First, promoting local businesses, promoting more jobs for residents, better parking, more traffic, solutions, creating parks, green spaces, then creating car parks. So you can see how different and varying the objectives are over here. And that is what happens when you are a not for profit organization, because you don't have one stakeholder group to look at. You have so many different groups that you have to look at, and so many different groups that you need to quantify upon, that you need to actually address. And this type of decision is particularly difficult, as how do you decide which stakeholder group will take preference? Most of the factors being considered are difficult to quantify. How can you tell whether quality of life has gone up of your community? There is no way of justifying it, right? How do you offset different issues measured in different ways? For example, how many extra jobs justify the extra congestion and pollution? So you see how subjective it is and how difficult it is to quantify when you are a NFP. It becomes so difficult to put down objectives, to put down broad objectives, and then to measure them. It becomes very difficult. So what generally is done is a cost benefit analysis is looked at. You look at the costs. For example, to be more environmentally cautious, these were the costs that I incurred. Against these costs, what were the benefits that I got? That's how you list them down, and that's how you identify whether this objective has been met or not. For a not for profit organization, cost benefit analysis is a major way to move forward. Keep this in your mind.